So literally all of the people that I met that I was now friends with were in the after school arts program. So I decided that I would join too. Also, it was like one of the only after school activities that my parents would let me join, because my dad said that sports weren't for girls and it wasn't good to do sports, like be in that competitive nature. Fucking weird. And also he said that I shouldn't be doing any after school activities. Instead, I should be focusing on what I can do for my community and just a bunch of that bullshit. But thankfully my mom stepped in and said that it would be good for me to do this to keep me out of trouble, whatever that means. But it was nice because I want to say by the second month in this school, I actually felt like I wasn't the new kid anymore. So that was super exciting. And I think the reason why my parents like they also put me in this tutoring program, right? Because like I said, they wanted to keep me out of trouble, mainly because they weren't sure about this new town. They knew that some of the kids weren't like everybody else in my old town, and they just didn't want me falling into drugs or other shit like that, pretty much being like my sister. So they had put me in this program for tutoring, and not to toot my own horn, I did super good in school, okay? But anyways, so I was doing this after school tutoring program, and I was paired up with this kid named Oliver, and he was a senior. And the thing that I liked about Oliver is he wasn't a douchebag like all of the other boys in my school, which was super nice. We loved that. But he was also really sweet, and he seemed like he had a good head on his shoulders, okay? But one of the main things that like made me super attracted to him was the fact that he was nice to me and like fucking mean as hell to every other girl that would try to talk to him. So it's like felt special, you know. Anyways, he was super outgoing. He was involved in a lot of school activities, so to me that was also attractive because that meant that he had goals, you know. Like he seemed like he was very motivated to, you know, have a good future for himself and everything like that, period. Well, the one day after I was done tutoring him, by the way, I would, like, after school, this program was in the library, so all the kids and everything met in there. It wasn't like you went to anybody's house after school to do the tutoring. Anyways, like I said, after I was done tutoring him, he said that he was having a little bit of trouble with some of the English stuff that we had went over. So he asked if he could FaceTime me so we could go over some of the other flashcards. Now, the most embarrassing part about this all was the fact that I had a fucking flip phone that was only used for emergencies. So when I told him that, he went out to his car and grabbed his old phone that he was using as an iPod, and he was like, here, you can take this. But I felt like super bad about it, so I was like, no, it's fine. I'll ask my sister if I can use her phone. I'll just FaceTime you off of there. You know, here, give me your number. So I told my sister that I needed to use her phone, and thankfully, you know, she was like, oh, period, sis, like, here's my phone, call your man. And I called him, and there was no response. So at this point, I wasn't even sure if he was gonna call me back, because I had never, ever, ever had a guy ask to call me or anything like that. But around 7:30, he texted my sister asking if she could give the phone to me and if we could FaceTime. So we spent about 2 hours on the phone, and I'm not even gonna lie to you guys, okay? We spent like 10 minutes going over flashcards, and then after that, we spent like 2 hours just talking about random shit, getting to know each other. So fast forward a few weeks, he had eventually asked me to go on a date, and I was super nervous about this because my dad was super against my sister and I dating, okay? Like, we were allowed to hang out with boys but not date them. That was like a no-no. Don't fucking do that. But after I thought about it for a little bit, I did remember this one time where my dad let my sister go on a date whenever she was younger than me. So when I asked him, I made sure to bring that up as like a little manipulation tactic. Like, okay, but you let, you know, my older sister go on a date and she was younger than me. That sort of thing. Because I feel like it's only fair that he lets me go on a date. So after an hour of debating with my parents, they finally decided that they were gonna let me go on this fucking date, as they should. But they were like, okay, well, you have to go where we say you're allowed to go, and you have to call us every half hour to check in. It was fucking ridiculous. But he was such a freaking gentleman. He picked me up, he paid for dinner, we had a super good time. At the end of the night, he kissed me on the cheek. I literally just thought that like I was in love with this kid, okay? Now the only reason why my sister and I weren't allowed to really go on any dates, okay, is because the one night my sister asked to go on a date, my parents were like super hesitant at first, but they said yeah. She ended up not coming home for 3 days. So they thought she was kidnapped. She wasn't. And because of that, before my next date with Oliver, my parents said that he had to come over and have dinner with my family first. So he came over, he had dinner with my family. My family fucking loved him, which I was super thankful for, because if my dad didn't like you, you were going to know right on the spot. Like my dad would be like, I don't like you, you're not good enough for my daughter, get the fuck out of my house. Well, before the second date, after he had came over and met my family, I got a text from Avery, and she pretty much said to watch my back with Oliver, because apparently the last girl that he was with, he screwed her over really, really bad. So I decided to call him the night before our next date and ask him about it. And when I asked him about it, he had said that the reason why him and his ex-girlfriend Leah broke up was because she was being super controlling and tried to make him cut off all of his friends and stuff like that. And that's the whole reason why him and her broke up, which I had no reason not to believe him, so I honestly just left it at that. But after that, Oliver started to come over a lot more, and we weren't allowed to hang out in my room, so we usually would just hang out down in the basement, and we would kiss and little stuff like that. But obviously I had no plans on doing the nasty with him because I was taught you should wait till marriage. But after 4 months of us dating, he started to ask for more, and that's what I was afraid of happening. And also at this point, I had started to hear lots of rumors about his past with other girls, and I really was not sure what to do. Because I heard shit like he broke up with his last girlfriend because she wouldn't let him have a threesome with her. I heard that another girl that he was dating wouldn't let him do the nasty without a condom. And the last girl, which I'm pretty sure was Leah, she broke up with him because she found out that halfway through doing the nasty, he would take the condom off. Yeah. And I did think that all of this was lies because, first of all, I did not think that Oliver was like this, okay? Also, I did bring it up one more time in our relationship, and he told me that they were all lies, and he also said that girls were super jealous of the position that I was in because a lot of girls really like him, which made him sound like just a little bit like a narcissist, you know? But me never having a boyfriend or even talked to a boy before, I believed him. But eventually, girls were coming up to me in school saying that he was Snapchatting them, asking them for nudes, and he was asking girls to do the nasty. And that honestly really scared me because this boy I literally thought was like the love of my life, and I didn't want to lose him just because a girl was willing to do something that I wasn't willing to do. And he was like, recently he started saying stuff like, oh, like I want to have a kid so bad, like I want you to have my kids, I want to marry you, I want to show you how much I love you. Back it up, back it up, back it up, back it up. You're fucking gross. And at first I was super hesitant because I was like, sis, I really wanted my first time to be with somebody that I was going to be with forever and who I loved. But then after a long conversation with myself, I realized that this was the man that I wanted to be with forever. Yeah. So the one night we were over his house and he asked me if we could do the nasty. And when I told him that I wanted to wait and pretty much no, he rolled over and he was like, I thought you said that it was supposed to be with somebody that you loved, somebody you knew you were going to spend the rest of your life with, which is clearly not what I fucking said. I mean, I did say that, but I also said you were supposed to wait until marriage. So after that, I tried talking to him and he literally just started fucking ignoring me. So at that point, I told him fine, we could do the nasty, and eventually we were hanging out every day at his house after school. doing the nasty. And you know, sure, it was fun, but things started to get very complicated very, very, very fast. Avery had told me that there were a lot of rumors going around school that I was a slut and that Oliver was only using me to do the nasty. And apparently he was the one going around telling people that I was a slut, which, you know, we loved that. My boyfriend of, I want to say 4 months, had been going around telling people a bunch of shit about me. And this made me absolutely heartbroken. And when I confronted him about it, he literally laughed it off like the fucking piece of shit that he was. He was like, come on, it's jokes, it's really not that serious. So that was super rough. Not only that, but the next 3 months of our relationship, I honestly started to get super depressed. My grades started to slip. I removed myself from all after school activities. And after all of the, quote, rumors and lies that were going around about his ex-girlfriends, he did exactly what he said that he didn't do to the one girl, Leah. He started to take his condom off while we were doing the nasty, and he got me pregnant. Yeah, there's no easy way of pointing it. He got me pregnant. Now my period was always super irregular, so like I would get a period 1 month and then I wouldn't have one for like the next 3 months. But this time just felt very, 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 very different. So Avery and I went to the store, we got a pregnancy test, and I found out that I was pregnant. Now this was a huge deal to me because one, I just turned 16. Two, my parents would disown me if they found out. But at the same time, I knew they would make me keep the baby because they would be more against me getting an abortion than keeping it and raising the child. Not to mention, I had a crazy ass older sister who already disappointed my family more than once. So I felt even worse that they had to go through this with me. And I would never be able to live something like this down. So I called Oliver and I told him that I was pregnant. And when I told him this, I thought that he would be super happy because of all the times he was like, I want you to have my kids, like, let's just run away, go start a family together. But he was very far from happy. First, he started saying that it wasn't his and that I needed to get an abortion, and he literally begged me to get a fucking abortion, like crying. And at this point, I figured I really had to tell my parents because Oliver wasn't on board. So I was really worried that I was going to be left to raise a child on my own with a deadbeat father. And when I told my parents about it, I didn't get the warmest reaction, but I also didn't get the worst reaction that I thought I was going to get. So that was a plus. But they told me that I would have to have the child and everybody would step in to help raise it because my family and I are very against abortion. It's against our religion. It is what it is. Plus, my mom is super supportive and she loves children, so she would be the best grandma ever and would definitely be a help when this child comes into the world. Well, then I told them that Oliver doesn't want it. He wants me to abort it, and he isn't even sure about our relationship right now. And that made my parents fucking livid, okay? And they were also super pissed off at Oliver's family because what they didn't know was they tried calling Oliver's parents, right? And when they called his parents, the number was blocked. So obviously Oliver got to his parents' phone before they could answer it and realize that their son's a fucking piece of garbage. Then a few days later, we pull up to his house so that way we can hopefully have a conversation with his parents. And nobody was home, so we sat outside waiting for a little bit until the neighbors had called the cops. Yeah, the neighbors fucking called the cops. And I would say 2 weeks went by and Oliver finally came over to apologize, you know, be a man, hopefully. He eventually said that he was super sorry for what happened and if I would let him be a father to this child, he would be so happy. And me being a stupid fucking bitch, I was like, yeah, that would be like amazing because the only thing I was worried about right now was, you know, starting my own family at this point. Like I was pregnant, it is what it is, right? So that night we decided to do the nasty for, you know, a little celebration that we were going to have a family. And then I see a flash behind me, so I get up and turn around and he is recording on his phone. So at this point I'm screaming, crying, and he puts on his clothes, tells me I need to leave. And I'm like wrestling him for his fucking phone, and his mom comes upstairs, tells me that I need to leave, even though I literally tried explaining to her like, hey, your son got me pregnant, you know, like, are you gonna fucking do something about it? And I was super upset in that moment, but then I realized it's my fucking parents' fault. I'm gonna blame my parents for this one, okay? Now hear me out. I have to blame them because at the end of the day, they beat it into my head that if you're going to have sex, you need to be doing it to start a family. So at that point also, I never really learned about like safe sex and stuff like that. They never put me on birth control or anything like that. So then I had like this fantasy, you know, of a picture perfect family in my head, and that the person that you do the nasty with should be in your life forever. So at this point, after I figured out that he had the video, I'm debating calling the cops, right? But then I'm also realizing I put my family through too much these past few weeks, so I just really didn't give a fuck anymore. You know what? If it got leaked, it got leaked, but my parents did not need to know that I basically had a fucking sex tape now. So then I get a text from a random number saying, get an abortion or I will leak the video. And you know, I tried playing dumb, like, what video? What are you talking about? So at this point, I'm feeling fucking broken, okay? Like, I feel like I was done with life at that point, okay? Like, fucking done. So I texted the number back saying that if they wanted me to get an abortion, that they had to take me to the clinic and pay for it. And my plan was just telling my family that I lost the baby somehow, you know. But worst decision of my life, because my parents did end up finding out. So not only did I lose part of my parents' trust, but I also lost something that I really loved, aka my fucking child. He ended up leaking the fucking video anyways, which really sucked. It went around school, and not only that, but it went around the church. Of course. And my parents weren't even mad about the sex tape. They were more mad that I got a fucking abortion. Like, my dad didn't talk to me for like a whole 2 fucking weeks. Not to mention, everybody in school found out that Oliver had blackmailed me into an abortion with that video, and that he also technically raped me. So once people found out about that, their family sold their store and they ended up moving.